Happy Mother's Day, everybody. So, I had a very unusual experience last night. Going to cry, so be prepared. It started out with listening to a video that I will post on my page. Hi, Madeline. I've had a millennials long relationship with trying to understand the dark, doing battle with the dark. And the battle part ended a couple of months ago, and I was given a different task. And I've been coming to understand it, but it's more of a healing role. This is my dog, and he's very large, and he thinks he's very small, so he's sitting on my lap. Anyway, look for orbs above my head. It's definitely an orb morning. I'm really nervous as I'm sharing this because this is really, really big. So this song basically is like a cry from the dark, those beings who have been used by the dark and entrapped by the dark. Hi everybody, Mia, Madeline, happy Mother's Day. So last night as I was going to sleep, the very audacious part of me said, I'm going on a rescue mission. Not to those entrapped by the dark who we normally think of as us poor light workers or whatever, but the dark itself, the demons, the reptilians, those who have been entrapped. And one of your birdies. Anyway, so I opened up this field and I said to any of those dark beings that want to transition to the light, because I seem to do this. I'm going to backtrack to an experience I had last year. I was listening to a video and a question came on about reptilians, and all of a sudden, like, this thought came to me, you should be afraid of reptilians. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be afraid of them. Hi Jessica, hi Camille. And suddenly there was a 14-foot tall reptilian commander standing in front of me. So this was last year sometime. And all of a sudden I rose up into my, hi Annette, I rose up into my 14-foot tall warrior self, and I felt these gigantic wings spring out of my back, and I realized I was allowed to share consciousness with this higher aspect of myself for this experience, to come to understand who I am and what I do. And so I rose up into this energy and I stared this reptilian down with absolute compassion and authority. I was not afraid at all, and it was just this moment of like matched energy. And then from the back of his crowd, he had legions of demons behind him, and from the back of the crowd there was one demon saying, me, pick me, I want to transition to the light. So I called in a couple of ascended masters to hold the crowds back because they were trying to keep him from coming to the light, and he was able to get to me, and then I transitioned him to my teams upstairs. And that happened almost a year ago, and it was only within the last month that I've come to understand that entire experience happened because that one demon prayed for help. He's been reaching toward the light, and I was sent, or this 14-foot tall aspect of myself was sent. And then I sank down back into my body, and I was like, whoa, that just happened. So anyway, fast forward to last night. So I created this big, huge football field size of, like, just place. It was a place for any darkness that wanted to transition to the light. And oh my gosh, you guys, I'm going to post a video on what's happening with Saturn too. Saturn is the divine masculine that was chained with rings and used for the dark. And that's the divine masculine that is being freed now. The soulmate of the sun. So there's healing with the divine masculine and feminine happening right now. And I'll link a video below, after this, to that. But anyway, so I opened up this field and it was purple. Yes, hi Kathleen. It was purple and crackly, and then I said, oh my heavens, what have I done? And my little self popped in. In Buddhism, they call that the think it's the Vajrayana and the Mahayana, the little vehicle, popped in and said, "What are you doing?" And then Jesus came in and he said, "Did you think you were going to do this by yourself? Did you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." So Jesus was there, and then guess who? Then I called in all of the light beings that I have conscious and unconscious access to. All of them. All of them. And then Bob Marley showed up. I'm not kidding you. Bob Marley showed up. And have I heard Saturn's losing its rings? Well, I'm not surprised. Yeah, it is. Let's all look into that. The chains that it was bound by for so long. But anyway, so to complete the story, Bob Marley comes in and he says, "Go up to this field where all of those who are willing to transition to the light, the suffering and entrapment of those who have been made to serve the dark, and we don't understand the level of their suffering, and they're on a journey back toward the light." And so they were gathering in that field, and then Bob Marley said, "Put your hands on this field, make contact with it." And I was like, okay. So I touched it, and he said, "Give them what you have to give them." And I recalled a time in my life when I was recovering from a repressed memory of sexual abuse, and I was sitting outside the gates of heaven because I just couldn't, quote unquote, forgive God for what happened. And I was sitting outside those gates just in a pile of tears. Max, that's enough now. He's helping. And then Bob Marley said, "What allowed you to transition into the holy chamber and speak with God? What gave you access?" And I was doing a paint job at that time with a Jewish man who has high priest energy and divine masculine energy. And believe it or not, before I got painting that day, we sat down for a meal together and he prayed a Jewish prayer, and I wept. He's like, "What's up?" And I was like, you just opened the door. You held open the door to the divine masculine, to the Father God, and I needed someone to do that for me. And so Bob Marley was like, "Give them that." And so I said to these beings, I remember separation. I remember the pain and the fear of feeling separate, feeling like I couldn't even approach the divine, like I couldn't figure out what would make that okay. Can you imagine the leap that would be for them? So I just vibrated that experience into their field, and then Bob Marley turned it, hi Marilee, Bob Marley turned it into, well, together, it transformed into what looked like Neptune. It was a sphere that was blue-green. It was really, really beautiful. And then, and that experience pretty much closed out, and I went to sleep thinking, what have I done? Oh my God, is that okay? And then, this morning I read the most phenomenal Rumi poem. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm going to read it to you, and okay, that's enough now, Max. The dark came to me this morning, and it said, "We are on our own journey back to the light, and you helped us." So it wasn't just me saying, "Come on over." It's like they were like, we're on our way, we're searching, we want to go back to the light. And I opened up a space for them to do that. So I'm going to read this Rumi poem, and think of it, you can think of it any way that works for you, but I think of it as the darkness of this being spoken to those entities we have thought of as evil and demonic. For 8, it's called "We Can See the Truth in Your Eyes." I gotta put my specs on. For ages you have come and gone, courting this delusion. For ages you have run from the pain and forfeited ecstasy. So come. return to the root of your own soul. Although you appear in earthly form, your essence is pure consciousness. You are the fearless guardian of divine light. So come, return to the root of your own soul. When you lose all sense of self, the bonds of 1,000 chains will vanish. Lose yourself completely. Return to the root of your own soul. You descended from Adam by the pure word of God, but you turned your sight to the empty show of this world. Alas, how can you be satisfied with so little? Think of the loosh, think of the vampirism, think of the suctioning energy. They're hungry. How can you be satisfied with so little? Think of Voldemort and the unicorn. It's like, that's pretty ineffective, don't you think? Aren't you tired of that? Return to the root of your own soul. Every entity is a spark of the divine. Divine is the source of everything. So continuing, why are you so enchanted by this world when a mine of gold lies within you? Open your eyes and come. Return to the root of your own soul. You were born from the rays of God's majesty when the stars were in their perfect place. How long will you suffer from the blows of a non-existent hand? And that's the marvel of the dark, is that Source was playing with the concept of separation, and we knew it had to be the illusion of separation, because separation isn't possible. How long will you suffer from the blows of a non-existent hand? So come, return to the root of your own soul. You are a ruby encased in granite. How long will you deceive us with this outer show? So it's like we're looking at the dark saying, the jig is up. We see who you are. Oh friend, we can see the truth in your eyes. So come, return to the root of your own soul. After one moment with that glorious friend, after one moment, and you've all experienced this, after one moment with that glorious friend, you became loving, radiant, and ecstatic. Your eyes were sweet and full of fire. Come, return to the root of your own soul. Shams-e Tabriz, the king of the tavern, has handed you an eternal cup. And God in all his glory is pouring the wine. So come, drink. Return to the root of your own soul. So yeah, I think we're going through an awakening, not just to our return to the light, but the nature of the dark, the illusion of separation, bringing the polarities together, not calling all the pain and the suffering and the torment that's been caused good. I mean, we've all learned from it, and it got out of balance, and we're bringing it back into balance. And it's all about love. So I know this was pretty heavy duty, you guys, but if you tuned in, that's on you. Has anybody seen any orbs? Yeah. So I'm going to post the video of the song that sparked all of this. And I just want to say, every time I'm holding my phone, or I'm feeling all the Wi-Fi, or I'm watching my TV, or, you know, any of that, it's like I'm feeling the energy of, you know, the tools that are being used, created by the dark, used by the dark. And there's this resistance that I feel even when I'm holding my own phone. And in the moment that I was listening to that song where the dark was singing about its own pain, there was this moment where I felt absolutely no resistance. It's like I tapped into that experience of separation with compassion, because we've all tasted that. And imagine the power of a soul that's been trapped in the dark and has been used in the service of dark for so long, returning to the light. It's like I can't even imagine the power and the unfolding and the knowledge, you know. So, anyway, I love you guys. Happy, happy Divine Mother's Day. You are all inhabited by the Divine Mother, divine, infinite compassion, the root of the root. It's who you are. Oh, yeah. Tell me a story, Madeline.